Hello and welcome to Maths with Jacob. This lesson will focus on equations with surds. A special puzzle to warm up the brain cells is on the next slide. The answer will be given at the end. Enjoy. What is the meaning of the following? Good luck with it and see how you go. Equations with surds. In earlier videos, I presented many equations involving rational numbers. Here we see how to solve equations involving irrational numbers. The equations need to be manipulated so that both the rational and irrational parts equate to each other. Remember that in an earlier video we said that if m plus the square root of n equals k plus the square root of h, then m was equal to k and n was equal to h. So if we follow those principles, let's look at this example. If 2 plus the square root of 5 all squared equals m plus n the square root of 5, find the values of m and n. Now if we take 2 plus the square root of 5 and we square it, remember it's the first squared plus twice their product plus the second squared. That gives us this line. When we simplify, we get to this line. So 9 plus 4 the square root of 5 equals m plus n the square root of 5. So therefore m equals 9 and n equals 4. And that's the answer. So m equals 9 and n equals 4. Another example, if the square root of 8 plus the square root of 128 equals m the square root of 2, we have to find m. So the object is to find m. Now the square root of 8 can be written as the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. Remember, that's how we simplify the surds. And the square root of 128 is the square root of 64 by the square root of 2. So that's 2 the square root of 2, because the square root of 4 is 2, plus 8 the square root of 2, because the square root of 64 is 8. Now because we have like terms, as we mentioned in an earlier video, 2 the square root of 2 plus 8 the square root of 2 is 10 the square root of 2. So if 10 the square root of 2 equals m the square root of 2, therefore m equals 10. Example 3. This is a little bit tricky, this one, but it'll be straightforward if we follow it closely. The square root of 3 minus the square root of 2 over the square root of 6 to the power of minus 1 equals those terms there. Now we have to find the value of m. So we're given that equals that, we have to find m. Now all we do, to the power of minus 1, that's just the reciprocal. So here is the reciprocal. All we do is turn this fraction here upside down. That gives us the reciprocal, so there it is. The right hand side remains the same. Now to rationalize the denominator, remember we multiply top and bottom by the conjugate surd. Now the conjugate surd of square root of 3 minus the square root of 2 is the square root of 3 plus the square root of 2. So we multiply top and bottom by that, and that equals m plus the square root of 12. Square root of 6 times the square root of 3 is the square root of 18. The square root of 6 times the square root of 2 is the square root of 12. Now down the bottom we have the product of a sum and difference, which is the difference of two squares. The square root of 3 all squared is 3. The square root of 2 all squared is 2. So 3 minus 2 is 1. See, so really that's all over 1. But we don't have to have that in there. It's just the square root of 18 plus the square root of 12. Now if that equals the square root of m plus the square root of 12, that means m must equal 18. See, because we're equating that number there with the m. So m equals 18. Example 4. 5 plus the square root of 7 all squared equals 4y plus 2m the square root of 7. If we square the left-hand side, the first squared plus twice their product plus the second squared equals the right-hand side. If we simplify that part, we get that part there equals the right-hand side. So 4y equals 32. So it follows that 4y must be equal to 32. So y is 8, because 4 8s are 32. The 2m must equal 10. So 2m equals 10. Therefore m equals 5. And they are the answers. Here's a quick quiz to help you. Please check through the video at any time. What is the meaning of the following? Upside down. I think you can see that. Here are the answers to the quick quiz, and the video is at your disposal. If you found this video useful, please subscribe on the next slide. You will receive a notification when the next video is available. Please share with your friends. Hope to see you next lesson.